Hello. Thank you for joining me today. Unafraid, Reister or wrong, George Reister here, the HMIC, head man in charge. I'm glad you guys are joining me today. We got a couple great things up on tap. It is going to be the greatest Unafraid show that you've ever seen, as we do every day, the greatest show that you've ever seen. What we got on tap for today for you guys. First of all, like the feed, share the feed, most importantly, the way everybody gets a chance to see Unafraid. We got Chip Kelly. He met with people in UCLA today. Got details on that. The college football playoff top 25. Got to see what's going on with that. The NFL Hall of Fame, well, the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2018, the semifinalists were announced. 27 of them, only 5 get in. T.O., Randy Moss, Ray Lewis, all on the ballot. Will they get in? I got the answer for you. And the anonymous emails are here. The Unafraid anonymous emails are here. They are up. Check unafraidshow.com. You can check Twitter at George Reister. You can check Facebook, wherever you want to check. They're there. Enjoy them. Make sure you send out comments and make sure you share them with your friends because they are hilarious. They are sad. They will make you cry. They will evoke every emotion that you need to be evoked. But now it's time to get started into the meat and potatoes of this thing. So Chip Kelly, everybody knows he was rumored to be going to Florida. Everybody thought, oh, he's for sure going to take that Florida job. Yeah, wrong, because UCLA fired Jim Mora. And yesterday, Chip Kelly was not in L.A. I'm sorry, was not in New Hampshire. Or not in wherever the hell else he lives. He was in Los Angeles meeting with officials from UCLA. Meeting with Casey Wasserman. Meeting with Mr. Troy Aikman. They are leading up the search for UCLA, and that's who he met with. Most importantly, he said he's going to decide in the next few days, probably by the end of the week, beginning of next week, if he's going to take the job. And I will tell you this. I believe Chip Kelly is going to take the UCLA job. UCLA has new facilities. They have a good infrastructure. They have a talent base around them. And Chip Kelly's offense, he knows that he can attract kids from L.A. He doesn't have to recruit them to Gainesville instead of going to Miami because Miami's hot right now. He doesn't have to try to get him from going to Florida State. Doesn't have to compete as much in recruiting as he would out here in LA because UCLA is a good school and they have the resources and the commitment to win at this point in time. And if you're Chip Kelly, you're looking at, okay, yeah, Florida can pay you more potentially, but Under Armour and Kevin Plank are kind of trying to do what Nike and Phil Knight have done up in Eugene, which is subsidize some of the coaches' pay. That way they can get their team good, more eyeballs on the swoosh, more eyeballs on the Under Armour X, all of that. That's what's most important here, people. You have to pay attention to that. Also, is that if for some reason UCLA misses out on Chip Kelly, where do they go next? Easy. They go to Kevin Sumlin. Kevin Sumlin is going to be fired after the LSU game this weekend. And I wrote earlier this year that when the dude from the Board of Regents for Texas A&M said, oh, we should fire Kevin Sumlin. We should fire him. He's terrible after they lost to UCLA. I was like, leave the man alone. The man's doing a great job there. This is College Station. It's a B program in a D city that's a college town. And you think that you're going to get some magical coach to come there? The best you're going to hope for is Jimbo Fisher. And after the way that you're treating Kevin Sumlin, and then you add that up with how Jimbo Fisher's being treated in Florida State right now, why the hell would he sign up for that? You're limiting your options by the way you're treating people. Limiting them. Exactly. I will speak proper for you. So Kevin Sumlin is the guy that UCLA is going to need to knock on the door next if Chip Kelly for some reason says no, which I don't think he will. He's going to be fired. And the interesting part about that story about him being fired is, being that if he beats LSU this weekend, he'll be 8-4 with a chance for 9 wins. The man has never finished below 8 wins in a season. That means that you always got a shot. But that's the guy that you fire. People make some classless, dumb decisions sometimes. It's different if Texas A&M fired Kevin Sumlin and they knew they could get Chip Kelly. That's not the case. They're firing Kevin Sumlin and don't have a clue who's going to be the next coach unless it's Jimbo Fisher. It's a man who's had quarterback injuries this year. Texas A&M has played all right. They played it close with Alabama, but this is the guy you want to fire? Okay, yeah. Texas A&M has it coming. I'm telling you. Anytime you fire a coach that should not be fired and you cannot get a coach who will guaranteed give you better success, you're going to lose. You are headed for disaster always. Just like the Buffalo Bills with Tyrod Taylor. They benched a winning quarterback who had you in the playoffs for a rookie who had never played a snap in Nathan Peterman, and look what you got. You got trash. That's exactly what Texas A&M is going to get, is trash if they fire Kevin Sumlin. That's what they're going to get. Because I've told you guys many times the 2 rules of firing coaches. Number 1, you have to get somebody who will guarantee do a better job. Well, you have to believe and know that you can get somebody who is guaranteed to do a better job, which Texas A&M does not have, and loss of hope by recruits. Can he still sell recruits that he can get them in the door and win there? Yes, he can. That means you don't need to fire your damn coach. But UCLA, on the other hand, Jim Mora, there was a loss of hope. And the next thing that you have to see is that Kevin Sumlin would be a good fit for UCLA. And if by chance the other guy that they should look at besides Kevin Sumlin, if they decide to go in a different direction just because they want a guy with West Coast ties, the next door that they need to kick down is Scott Frost. I'm telling you, Scott Frost is the guy. I would throw a bag of money at Scott Frost. Anything that Scott Frost wants, Scott Frost would get. Because I understand that UCLA's short list is going to be Chip Kelly, Kevin Sumlin. But before I get to Kevin Sumlin, I'm throwing a bag of money at Scott Frost, who's the coach at Central Florida. He was the offensive coordinator at Oregon, and he's one of those guys that like kind of fits the Tom Herman mold, who's down at Texas now. Rebuilt Houston very quickly. Same thing that Willie Taggart did at Western Kentucky and then down at South Florida. Those are the young coaches that you want because they'll stay at your program for a while. And Scott Frost is that guy. So that's who I would go after if I were UCLA. Because you want to get in that top 25. You want to have a coach with some cachet that young guys relate to and that they will come play for. The top 25 came out yesterday. College football playoff top 25 came out, and guess who moved up a few spots? Was Miami. And there were some people who weren't happy about it. But before we get into the rankings so much, I'm going to talk about who still has a chance at the playoffs. Which team still can make the top 4? Because if you're looking at it, Alabama 1, Miami 2, Clemson 3, Oklahoma 4, then Wisconsin, Auburn, Georgia, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Penn State, and then UCLA at 11 and TCU at 12. Those are the only teams that still have a shot at the playoff. And let me tell you how your team, no matter who they are, whatever they are, have a chance at the playoff. First of all, if you are USC or TCU, you are rooting for Alabama. Because if Alabama loses the Iron Bowl, they'll have 1 loss, won't get an SEC championship, and then any 2-loss teams pretty much behind Alabama are not going to get in because the committee, although it's a different committee, set a precedent last year when they put in, 2 years ago when they put in Ohio State, non-conference champion, last year too, non-conference champion over the conference champion. So you got You got to pay attention to that. So if you are TCU or USC or Ohio State, you are rooting for Alabama, because if Alabama beats Auburn, Auburn will have 3 losses and they're out of it. And they're ranked 6th right now. That would mean Alabama would beat Georgia in the SEC championship. That'll give Georgia 2 losses, and your last one, the optics just aren't good, especially depending on if it's ugly or not. So then Auburn and Georgia are out. So then who else do those teams need to win? Because Miami, Clemson, Oklahoma win and you're in. And then you're going to have Miami or Clemson. Winner they're in, but both of them are not going to get in likely. So you got Alabama, Miami or Clemson. Then you got Oklahoma, who's in. So then now all those other teams slide up. And here's how TCU can get in the college football playoff. They win their last game against Baylor, and then they're going to play Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship. So you win those 2 games. You have Alabama win out. That's going to bump you up. And then you also need Wisconsin to beat Ohio State in the in the Big 10 championship. And then that presents, and Miami or Clemson, one of them's out. And then that presents an opportunity for you to bump all the way up ahead of USC, ahead of Penn State, ahead of Notre Dame, ahead of all those teams to get into the college football playoff. That is a dark horse team, TCU, because they still have a shot. They have a big enough game left, and the scenario for them to get in is reasonable. And they've played a tough schedule. When you look at USC, the committee said that there wasn't a whole lot of difference between Ohio State, Penn State, and USC. And when you look at schedules, USC has played a much tougher schedule. So there is room for USC to go up playing in the Pac-12 championship. That's the truth, because they get a week off. The other team that has that people are wondering about is Notre Dame. Can Notre Dame get in the college football playoff? I don't believe so. I do not believe that there is a scenario or a way that Notre Dame gets in the college football playoff. They have 2 losses already. And those 2 losses, one of them to Georgia is a pretty good loss. And then they have a loss to Miami, but the loss to Miami is 41-8. And that's recent. So, and those things stick in your mind. And then you might say, oh, well, USC beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame beat USC really bad. Yeah, but we kind of tend to forget about that when a team is playing much better after. And USC by far played the worst game you've ever seen them play, probably in a couple seasons, since the Alabama game 2 years ago in the first game of the season. I mean, it was horrendous. It was trash. So they're playing better. So USC, TCU still have an opportunity. How can Ohio State get in the college football playoff? How can Ohio State get in the college football playoff? Easy. Same scenario. Have Alabama win out, which knocks out Georgia and Auburn. You're going to leapfrog Notre Dame simply because you're a conference champion and because you played a conference championship game. And you beat an undefeated team in Wisconsin who's ranked number 5. So Notre Dame is out of there. And that puts you right in the college football mix. And the last scenario that people are wondering about is, can Miami and Clemson get in? Because they're ranked 2 and 3 right now. If Miami and Clemson were both undefeated, I would say the answer to that is yes. However, it makes it a more unlikely scenario. The only possible scenario where they both get in, is if both of these teams who are ranked number 2 and 3 play 2 epic showdowns in the next 2 weeks. They play each other back-to-back weeks, once at the end of the regular season and then the ACC championship. So let's say you have like a 26-23 last-second field goal this weekend. And Clemson wins. And Miami wins. That'll give Clemson 2 losses. And then the following week, you have Clemson come out and just dominate Miami. Then Miami has 1 loss. Clemson has 2 losses, but they're the ACC champion, and they just won their last game against Miami. So you can't put them in. So you can't put Miami in over them. That's the only scenario where you get Miami and Clemson in. Is it possible? Yeah. But is it likely? Probably not. Probably not. And after these guys finish playing in the college football, they move on to the pros. They're all trying to be Hall of Famers. They're all trying to be this and that. And that's when we got yesterday's/today's news, where the 27 semifinalists for the Pro Football Hall of Fame were announced. Let me give you a little backstory on how those spots are picked. So there's 5 player spots available. And for this year, there are 48 people who sit on the committee to vote for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You need 75% of those people to vote for you to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. 75%. Seems like an easy task for some people. It's easy. But let's look at the list. Let's analyze the list a little bit. We're not going to go over every single person because that would just be outrageous, because some of these people you guys don't know, don't remember, and they have no chance. The 27 people. We got Roger Craig, Leslie O'Neal, Carl Mecklenburg, Carl Coryell, who's a coach, Jimmy Johnson as a coach, Simeon Rice, defensive end, Hines Ward, receiver, which you see him on television, which helps people, Leroy Butler, safety, Rondé Barber, cornerback safety, Isaac Bruce and Torrey Hope, wide receivers for the Rams, Richard Seymour, defensive end for the Patriots, Kevin Mawai, Everson Walls, cornerback, Brian Urlacher, linebacker, Edgerrin James, running back, Joe Jacoby, offensive lineman, Steve Atwater, safety, Brian Dawkins, safety, Ty Law, cornerback, Alan Faneca, guard, Ray Lewis, linebacker, Tony Baselli, offensive lineman, John Lynch, safety, Terrell Owens, Steve Hutchinson, who's guard, and Randy Moss, wide receiver. Out of all of those people, when you really look at where these people were ranked, not just with their team, but when you look at where these people are ranked in the history of football, that's where I think that you have to figure out who's going to get in the top 5. But the problem is that we've consistently had a problem with who gets in the Hall of Fame, particularly wide receivers. Because Terrell Owens was second all-time in yards, third all-time in touchdowns, and he didn't get into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot because people didn't like him. And it was literally bothersome to me, because the Hall of Fame is supposed to stand for something. And how you get in the Hall of Fame is, the way we can be clear, the thing that should determine you for the Hall of Fame is, can you tell the history of the game in that era with or without that person? If you cannot, then they have to be voted into the Hall of Fame. And if you can, then they should not be in the Hall of Fame. It's a simple criteria. So let's look at some of the top guys. Let's look at Steve Hutchinson. Okay, Steve Hutchinson, if you talk about offensive linemen, he was the gold standard. One of the gold standards. Played for 11 or 12 years. And the man just dominated. He was the highest paid guard for a while, the most sought after free agent. No guard had been able to do what he was able to do in this era. That's the truth. That's Steve Hutchinson. He gets in. I got to put Steve Hutchinson in. He's one of the 5 best players out of those 27 players in terms of their era. Next up, let's go with Randy Moss. Randy Moss. He changed the game. There was a term named after him called mossing, when you jump over somebody to catch the ball. A term when it's an ethnic colloquialism that is created, that everybody understands about you. You have transcended the game. You have you will be living in glory forever. You will. And when you think about how much he changed the game in terms of defenses, because I played while Randy Moss was playing. And what did defenses do? They literally would never leave a cornerback. It didn't matter who it was, alone with Randy Moss. There had to be a safety over the top, which helped his teams play offense better. It helped the running game because there's less safeties in the box, because they have to keep a safety over the top. It helped the other wide receivers on his team when Chris Carter was playing with him, when Hatchett was playing with him in Minnesota. Same thing when he was in New England. Helped everybody else out because he was explosive over the top and you couldn't leave him alone. And when you did leave him alone, touchdown, Randy Moss, touchdown, Dante Culpepper, Tom Brady, whoever the hell else was, Randall Cunningham, whoever the hell else was throwing to him. Touchdown for that quarterback. So if he gets left out of the Hall of Fame, that'll be a joke in terms of being a first ballot Hall of Famer. He retired early. He did his thing. Like, this is not Calvin Johnson where he doesn't have 100 touchdowns despite how dominant he was. No, we're talking about a man with 150 plus touchdowns, ton of yards, was absolutely shattering Jerry Rice's records for the years that he was in the league. And this is a guy that could potentially be left out of the Hall of Fame. Yeah, no, thank you. Oh, but his attitude. You do not get in the Hall of Fame for being a good guy, for being a nice guy, for being cordial to people. You get in the Hall of Fame for what you do on the field in between those lines. I mean, damn. Like, where do we get off trying to put all this morality and all this into the Hall of Fame? It's sad. I mean, it's really sad and sickening when you think about not putting players in the Hall of Fame because you don't like their attitude. What? You don't like their attitude? Dude, get over it. Like, get over it. Go fly a kite. It's lame. It's super duper lame. I mean, just incredibly lame. I can't even quantify the levels of lameness on that. You don't want to let a guy with outstanding numbers that you can't tell the history of the game without in the Hall of Fame because you don't like him, because somebody calls him team obliterator. So what? The man obliterated defenses. He obliterated everybody. Team obliterator. Get the hell out of here. The man deserves to be in the Hall of Fame along with everybody else who you can't tell the story of the game without. But the question is Ray Lewis, right? Ray Lewis is one of the next people that's on the list. And people say, oh, Ray Lewis should absolutely be in. But if you want to judge by this morality thing, Ray Lewis was in some kind of way a part of a murder. Oh, should we let Ray Lewis in? You didn't let T.O. in, who has not been a model teammate. Well, some people might say. However, he's never been in trouble, never been arrested, never done anything, never put his hands on a woman. We've never heard any abuse allegations, none of this. But you want to put Ray Lewis in, though. This is why you can't put morality on the Hall of Fame. You have to let the play on the field judge and decide. Like if you want to put good guys in the Hall of Fame, create a Citizen of the Year award Hall of Fame. Create that. Like, I don't care. I mean, it's just like people don't want Kurt Schilling in the Baseball Hall of Fame because they say he's racist. They say he's this, he's that. I don't care. Put him in the Hall of Fame. That's where he should be because his play on the field said so. Another question mark is Tony Boselli. So he played for the Jaguars from 95 to 2001. He came from USC. He actually set the mold for what left tackles are supposed to be and are now. Like, he's like white Tyron Smith for the Cowboys. That's who he is. or like Jonathan Ogden, like that good. But he got hurt and his career was cut down short. He only played about 7 years. And the question is, should you get in the Hall of Fame? Should you get in the Hall of Fame after only playing 7 years? I got to put a question mark on that one. I know Tony, good dude, but you got to put a question mark on that. Because although he was one of the greatest players in the game, how much do you consider longevity in that? Because if that's the case, somebody who changed the game and changed football and is still culturally relevant right now is Bo Jackson. Wouldn't you have to consider Bo Jackson for the Hall of Fame? And in case you didn't know, no, he's not in. No, he's not in. And, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't fully embrace that. I can't. And John Lynch, I'll tell you a funny John Lynch story. When I was in Jacksonville, he was playing for the Denver Broncos. And I remember Fred Taylor had a hurt ankle. He had a sprained ankle, and we were playing against him. And so I I'm blocking. You know, the piles pile up. And I hear Fred Taylor at the bottom screaming, "Hey, stop, help." And turns out it was John Lynch at the bottom of the pile, twisting his ankle down at the bottom of the pile. I was like, damn, did this really do that? I mean, I put my forearm in his neck and was like, yo, get off him. And ever since then, I wasn't necessarily, I thought he was a dirty player because he was like a Rodney Harrison kind of guy, but he played hard. And he was a fabulous player. But the main people that people really care about in the Hall of Fame this year are T.O., Terrell Owens, Randy Moss, and Ray Lewis, to see if those dudes get in. All three of them should be in. I don't care how many wide receivers go in 1 year. If you are the best, you are the best. Somebody asked, how long was Lawrence Taylor left out? I think Lawrence Taylor was a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think he got in pretty quickly. Yeah, I believe that he got in very, very quickly, because I'm not for making guys wait. If you are a all-time great, you should be in the Hall of Fame. The last thing we got up for you guys today, the Unafraid Anonymous emails are out. Please make sure that you share them, because I don't think that I got to get a new catchy, visually pleasing picture for it. That way everybody's like, ooh, some clickbait, because there's some great stuff inside of the Unafraid emails. And you guys, I'm always down for your opinions, your voice, and the stuff that you like in the Unafraid emails. So please make sure that you send them over. So look, I will read one of the funniest ones to you guys. Guy says, my wedding is in 6 weeks. Me and my fiance have known each other for 2.5 years. My brother just told me he had sex with my fiance and she doesn't know it. I'm pissed that he didn't tell me before now, but I am not mad at her at all. Let me explain why. I have an identical twin brother. We often switch on dates early on just for fun and to get a feel for the chick. We've done this for at least the last 10 years. He went out with her on what would have been our 4th date, and they hooked up. She has no idea. My brother said he kept the secret because we got super serious, and this was the first time he had ever seen me in love and didn't want to ruin it. But he could no longer live with this secret. Do I tell my fiance and risk my marriage, or do I take this to the grave? That's the question. What would you do? What would you do if that were the situation? Are you telling your fiance, or are you taking that secret to the grave? Because the advice I gave the dude was, I said, listen, man, you have to tell her. Like, there's no way that you can't tell her. Because truth be told, if your brother had this super emotional moment and this realization that he couldn't live with this secret and couldn't keep this from you, he's 1 or 2 drinks away or a bad doctor diagnosis away from clearing his conscience and telling your then wife however long that is, 3, 5, 7 years, 15 years down the line, or telling a friend who accidentally says it or brings it up or tells somebody else, and then it gets back to your wife, and now you're married and you find out that you lied. That's not going to go over well. You're already to put yourself in a cluster because you've been switching off dates. While that's fun, yeah, and it got you jammed up. It's got you jammed up now, and I do not envy you at all. Oh, somebody said they would take it to the grave. No way in hell am I taking this to the grave because it's coming out. If it were just you, okay, you might be able to take it to the grave. But your brother has already shown that he can't keep a secret. He's already shown that this is and is this really the way that you want to start your marriage too? That's just the truth. It's a recipe for a disaster. And note to self, if I ever had a twin brother, if I could go back in time, if I ever have twins, yeah, don't do this, son. I'm going to tell them this story and point to this. This is a bad idea. There's no way in hell that you could possibly get something good out of this. Last thing that, so you guys make sure you guys share the Unafraid emails. The last thing that came across the wire yesterday, I damn near forgot about it, was this Ray Allen story. Ray Allen got catfished. And this is bad on so many levels because he's being sued by the man that was catfishing him, pretending to be a woman that was interested in him. Yeah. So Ray Allen was talking to some people on the interweb, or probably on one of these social media platforms, which I've heard about before. And some chick's supposed to be interested in him. And he's happy about getting some action, starts talking to him, this and that, trying to sleep with him. And turns out that it was a man. And this person was actually turned out to be stalking Ray Allen on some level. But then he ends up getting in trouble because the man sues him, saying that he's stalking him while he was sending messages to his wife, sending messages to his kid, tagging him in posts. This never works out well. This is the most Ray Allen story that there is Ray Allen stories. You guys read it. I'll put it up on my on my Twitter, on my Facebook, all that stuff. You guys, thank you for joining me today, and have a happy Thanksgiving with your family, with your friends. Enjoy your day. Hope all is well with you. Peace out. We will catch you guys later.